Welcome to Kernels Extra. I'm Tad Nicholson. There's never a shortage of debate in Washington, D.C., and last week was no exception. The U.S. House passed its version of the Farm Bill, but it didn't move with broad bipartisan support. Ohio Corn and Wheat's top priority, nationwide year-round access to E15, was expected to be part of the debate, and after several starts and stops, it was ultimately left out of the final package. To help make sense of it all, we're joined by Congressman Greg Landsman from Southwest Ohio. He's been a strong supporter of E15, and he's worked with Ohio Corn and Wheat on issues important to farmers. Congressman, thanks for taking the time to be with me.
Thanks for having me.
So let's get right to it. Our members know you as someone who's a great supporter of Ohio agriculture. He's worked with Ohio Corn and Wheat growers, is ongoing. At the same time, you opposed the Farm Bill package, the final package, last week. What led you to that decision?
We're trying to give the Senate more leverage to get a better deal done. The Farm Bill is great, and it's always something I've supported, but I was really frustrated with the way in which the majority dealt with the year-round E15 issue. We didn't get a vote, even though we were promised a vote. It was supposed to be part of that. And I said to my Republican colleagues, of course, I'll support the Farm Bill, but you gotta work with us on E15. It's got to get done, and then there's some SNAP issues too that are going to hit Ohio farmers hard, and so we're trying to delay some of the cuts to SNAP. So those are the two big reasons for saying no. I'm not going to give you support yet, but hopefully the Senate version will include the cost-sharing changes to SNAP that we've pushed for, and we get a deal done on E15, which to me is so important for our farmers.
Yeah, so for 2 decades, Ohio Corn and Wheat's been advocating for nationwide year-round E15. Last week looked like we were finally going to get this thing done, but it was pulled out at the last second. What happened behind the scenes?
You can probably guess, but it's the the refineries. Big oil, gas, those folks stepped in and they pulled the speaker aside and said, look, we don't want this bill to come to the floor. And, we've told you a couple times, this is a huge problem for us. So you got to pick a side, either, be with us, the refineries and oil and gas, or be with your farmers. And my belief is that we should be with our farmers. Like, I think it's absurd that all of these folks who have farmers in their districts, almost all of them, would still care to this extent what their refineries care or want when they're doing so well. I mean, big oil and gas couldn't be doing any better. And the deal was done in a way that protected the smaller refineries. Even the mid-sized refineries were protected. So ultimately, the speaker caved to that side of the fence, the oil and gas refinery side of the fence, and pulled the bill.
Well, E15 has had support from the API, so the petroleum industry, the larger refiners, fuel retailers, consumers, members of both parties in Congress, all talk positively about E15. This shouldn't be as hard as it is. So from your perspective, what's standing in the way?
I think just a little bit of courage, and just to say, look, you're gonna. We're not going to, make everybody happy here, but farmers come first. That's it. I mean, so, the speaker has promised, a vote on E15, legislation next week or the week after. I can't remember what the agreement was. He made that with House Republicans who stood their ground and said, look, we're not going to pass the rule on the Farm Bill until we get a commitment on the vote. And that might have been enough for me, but then I was told that he turned around and to the same people who said, we don't want to vote on the Farm Bill, he said he's going to pull the vote again. And so I'm not giving them my vote until we get a deal done on E15. At least that's my position as of right now, because I really want to use whatever leverage I have to help our farmers.
So we understand a vote on E15 could come in the next few days, and many of our farmer leaders, including many of our board members and our staff, will be out in D.C. making it clear just how important this issue is. Does E15 have the support it needs to pass the House, and what are you doing to help move it across the finish line?
Yeah, it has more than enough support. I mean, once it gets to the floor, it'll pass overwhelmingly. The issue is that it gets caught up in the speaker's office and, with a couple of members who have a lot of sway and a lot of money. And so we are putting pressure on both the Democratic and Republican leadership to get us a vote, because it will pass again overwhelmingly. And we're withholding our votes on certain things until we get it done.
So it's still expected to be a standalone vote then? It's a E15 by itself, which means all the stuff that anybody had an excuse to say, I support E15, but I don't support this, so we're going to have to vote no. All that's gone. It's just on E15. Is that the state of play right now?
What the speaker promised the pro-farm holdouts was that we would get a vote on just the E15 legislation, and if we get a vote on that, it will pass overwhelmingly. My concern, and you should bring this up when you're talking to folks, is that he seemed to have also promised the anti E15 people that he would pull the vote again. So we got to hold their feet to the fire and make sure we get a vote.
Well, Congressman, thanks for your support. Thanks for joining me today, but also everything that you're doing to help us get E15 across the finish line.
I appreciate all of you.
Stay connected to Ohio Corn and Wheat next week as the push for E15 continues in Washington, D.C. We'll be providing updates as the vote moves forward. Watch for the latest on ohiocornandwheat.org or on all of our social media channels.